On November 17, 2021, at 12:24 p.m., Young Dolph was ambushed and gunned down in broad daylight at a cookie shop in Memphis. 22 bullets would land before Marcus Thornton, who's Young Dolph's brother, is seen chasing the gunman out of the store, returning fire and wounding both of the shooters as they sped off. 1,044 days later, and the trial for this has only just begun. We now have all new information about why this happened in the first place, starting with the $100,000 reward that had been placed on Dolph's head months before by a man named Big Jook, who also happens to be the brother of Memphis rapper Yo Gotti. 4 men have appeared in court in connection to the crime, and an additional person is still on the run after bonding out almost 2 years ago. The first to appear was Cornelius Smith. He's the one seen hopping out of the stolen car first and opening fire with a Draco in hand. Second was another up-and-coming rapper from Memphis named Straight Drop or Justin Johnson, who's seen with a small handgun following suit. Jamarcus Johnson, who's also Justin's half-brother, was not involved in the ambush itself, but is now pleading guilty after the fact for helping the 2 shooters evade police. Shundale Barnett was the man in the car with Justin Johnson the day he was finally caught and arrested. He was also named a person of interest after this just for being associated, but after bonding out in December of 2022, he has since vanished and has not been found. Lastly is Hernandez Govan, a 44-year-old Memphis native who's being charged as the mastermind behind this entire situation. Hernandez is the one who approached Cornelius and Justin and informed them about the $100,000 reward Big Jook was offering for killing Young Dolph. His proposition was $20,000 for himself and $40,000 to each of the shooters. They knew that week Dolph would be in the city because he did a turkey drive every Thanksgiving for the community. It was no secret that every one of Dolph's cars had a unique camouflage wrap, so if he was around, they knew they would eventually find him. And on that day they did. They spotted him driving, followed him, and snuck up behind him, expecting a huge payday afterward. Cornelius told his girlfriend he would buy them a house with the money, and even more shocking, the day of the shooting was his daughter's birthday, stating he needed the money to buy her gifts as well. Now for Justin, he was an aspiring rapper and even had been photographed in the background at one of Dolph's shows before. He needed the money to fund his rap career, and it's speculated he may have thought if he carried out the job, he would also land a deal at Yo Gotti's label CMG. But after Cornelius Johnson only received $800 of the $40,000 he expected, he would turn his back and testify against everyone. An unnamed person at CMG did end up paying $50,000 for his lawyer after he was caught, but it was already too late, and he ended up telling the whole story, leaving us with 2 questions. Why did Dolph have a $100,000 reward on his head? And why did Yo Gotti want Young Dolph dead so bad?
Let the band play.
Prior to Young Dolph's passing in 2021, he had already survived multiple attempts on his life. Once after a show in North Carolina, and again outside his hotel in Los Angeles, where he was actually struck several times, but he later made a full recovery. Both of these events could be tied back to one major beef he was dealing with. Young Dolph and his paper route empire have been in a decade-long feud with Yo Gotti and his cocaine music group, and this started all the way back in 2014. In 2014, Dolph was just starting to make a name for himself in music. He had been dropping mixtapes since 2009, but he had been in the streets building a reputation for himself as a real hustler even before that. And after finally catching a buzz in music, labels started reaching out to him trying to sign a deal. One of those labels was CMG. Yo Gotti, being from Memphis as well and already an established name, got in contact and texted Dolph.
Okay, we got the Young Dolph text. You in a good space in Memphis, but you gotta take that shit from there to the world and it's gonna turn into money. I like your grind, my nigga. When I was in your position, none of them niggas who could've helped me did. Our city fucked up, homie.
Now it's important to understand that Dolph didn't really need the biggest asset a label had to offer, which is money. He already had it from the streets and was okay taking the long route and doing things himself, and it was working. Initially there were no issues, and Dolph just stated he didn't want to sign because then everybody would give Yo Gotti the credit when he finally popped off.
Did you did this all by yourself, or were there other artists that kind of help open the doors for you? Like I know Gotti's opening the doors for a lot of artists in Memphis, or did you just been navigating your own path?
I've been doing this, man, on my own since day one.
Day one.
You know what I'm saying? Since day one, like everybody, a lot of folks, a lot of people, everybody almost done came to me with different situations like, man, let me help you with this and do that. But me in my position, like I got too much of my own money tied in this and too much of my own time in it. Like I got too much invested in it. Mm-hmm. You feel what I'm saying? So like, say like Gotti wanted me to do man, come on bro, let's do CMG paper route. That's cool. I'm knocking for that. If I was him, I would have came to me like that. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But only thing was going to happen behind it was people like, oh, he popped off because of Gotti. You feel what I'm saying? Which I can't do that because I got too much of my own time and money invested in it.
In 2016 though, things really started to heat up, and it's all because of this mixtape and its title, The King of Memphis.
It's just Memphis one of them cities like that, you know what I mean? Like, if you pay attention, it always been a artist out the city saying, I'm the king of Memphis, I'm the king of Memphis. That's why it done been so hard for other artists to pop out and take off, because everybody want to be that the big one is just me. You know what I mean? But I ain't got nothing to do with that. I named my CD King of Memphis, not the King of Memphis. Like, all of my partners king.
This seems harmless on the surface, but it's a bold statement, and that seemed to be targeted at Yo Gotti. Shortly after, Dolph would put out a tweet stating, "Bro went from being my biggest fan and wanting to sign me to being my biggest hater." He would address this in a Hot 97 interview when asked if the two were on speaking terms.
Have you and Yo Gotti had a conversation lately? Have you guys, nothing? And you're not interested in having that conversation?
It ain't no pressure with me.
Yo Gotti wouldn't directly respond to this, but instead one of his artists known as Black Youngsta would. Black Youngsta and his goons would pull up to Dolph's neighborhood with military-sized weapons and record a video saying when he finds him, he's gonna slap the shit out of him.
Where he at? Where he at? Where you at, dog? See the left back? You see me? Dolph at, cuz. Where you at, dog? Where you at? Where you at? We in Cascade right now. We just left the store. Where you at right now, dog?
Now, Yo Gotti himself always did a good job of keeping his mouth closed, at least when it came to the internet side of things.
But whatever issue you and Dolph have, don't you think it's gone too far at this point? Like, isn't it time to...
I don't got no issue.
Yeah.
I ain't got no issue. Like, it probably was the second or third time I've been up here and said the same thing.
That's true.
I ain't got no issue.
What the fuck is going on with Dolph, baby? What is going on with Black Youngsta? What is going on, man?
Ain't nothing popping, man.
That shit's crazy, man. That video was scary.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's probably a little misunderstanding. Ain't nothing really popping, you know.
Do you think they're gonna work it out?
I don't know, man. You know, I can't speak for.
I mean, it looked crazy on Worldstar.
Yeah, I caught it a little bit of, but you know, lil homie Young though. You know what I'm saying? Lil homie Young and wild in the streets, and you know, they just move a little different.
Dolph, on the other hand, was not having it, and he got online stating that CMG now had the police looking at him. He also reiterates that Yo Gotti has always been a hater, and even pointed out that his first big song was a diss toward Memphis legends 3 6 Mafia.
Hey, I've been spraying your for years, the whole city know that. Ho Gotti, you was a... I just got back to the city, they say you trying to put charges on me and put the police on me. You send your little to do all your talking. Talk for yourself. Hey, that big head Down syndrome looking hate on everybody from the city that gets some real money. You start out hating on 3 6 and they were having Oscars and shit. You had to hate because you were broke. That's the only way you can get attention, boy.
On the song Ready, Dolph would drop a diss toward Black Youngsta with these lyrics. One of the lines suggests that he had been sleeping with Yo Gotti's baby mom, which would be the first time we would get context as to why this beef might have become so personal so fast. Black Youngsta would also rush to the studio and release his response titled Shake Some, which had all kinds of disses for Dolph. This really didn't get much attention, and after a few months, Youngsta would go on to state that the beef with Dolph was over.
Is the beef with Dolph, is it done yet?
Nah, I'm not beefing with Dolph no more. It's over with.
Have y'all communicated since then?
Nah, I actually never in my life stood in front of him and just talked to him and met him or nothing.
However, by now, the beef was clearly starting to get to Yo Gotti, because he rapped some lyrics on a song titled Don't Beef With Me. He never called Dolph out by name, and instead chose to go the subliminal route, but ultimately he basically sent out a warning. For a few months, things did go quiet, all the way up until Dolph decided he wasn't done making a statement yet. He dropped his iconic diss song, Play With Yo Bitch, and unlike Yo Gotti, this was definitely not a sneak diss. The cover art, intro, and music video were all directly targeted at him, and once again, Dolph alluded to the fact that he had been sleeping with his baby mom, even taking things a step further by having a man reenact him in the music video. Gotti once again tried to play it off by simply tweeting that he's a boss, but this is really when things started to get crazy.
Mark Jones shaking him, man, crazy, man. CIAA, man, Charlotte. Man, Young Dolph check out the performance. Get somebody to land on him, man. Nothing bulletproof. Yeah, truck bulletproof, bro.
While getting ready to perform in Charlotte, North Carolina, it was reported that Dolph was the target of a shooting in which 100 rounds were fired into his vehicle. The story turned out to be true, but he was actually untouched thanks to the $300,000 he invested in bulletproofing his SUV.
The day party. I was leading a day party. We was headed to where we was headed to. Pull out block on the day party, get up the street. Yeah. They started shooting, they shot. Shooting was over with.
In fact, he didn't seem to be remotely bothered by it and even went on to perform Play With Yo Bitch that same night in the club. Dolph would go on a number of interviews after this where he ultimately tried to avoid questions about the beef while still seeming unfazed by the whole thing and calling it old news.
That's old news. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's old. It's entertainment. You know what I'm saying? Like, definitely, if it ain't nothing else, it's entertainment right now. And this is the entertainment business, so.
The only thing he was actually thinking about was how this was the perfect time to drop his new album. The first song was 100 Shots, where he addressed the shooting in Charlotte and mocked them for not touching him. And if you read all the song titles in order, it actually wrote out a sentence. In May of that year, Black Youngsta alongside 2 other men were actually arrested for the shooting.
Now to a story we are continuing to follow. The rapper who turned himself into CMPD for the shooting in Uptown during this year's CIAA weekend will be back in Charlotte tomorrow. Sammy Benson, better known as Black Youngsta, is performing at the nightclub Label. The rapper turned himself into authorities back in May after 100 shots were fired in Uptown at another rapper, Young Dolph. That was in February. Dolph was not harmed. This is Benson's first trip to the Queen City since being released from the Mecklenburg County Jail.
He stuck to his story that he was innocent, even releasing a song with that title suggesting that Dolph snitched on him. Ultimately, the charges against him were eventually dropped due to lack of evidence. But again, the beef was really far from over.
Top story tonight, bullets fly near the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Tourists ducking and a rap artist was hit and seriously injured. Tonight, police say an ugly rivalry may be behind that shooting.
Just months after calling the beef old news, Dolph was once again the target of a shooting, this time in Los Angeles. Reports say that he and his crew were outside of a hotel that Yo Gotti was staying in when they were confronted by a number of other men. What started out as an argument quickly turned into a fistfight and then a shooting. Dolph was punched to the ground when a man named Corey McClendon then pulled out a gun and shot him numerous times. He managed to crawl to a nearby shoe store where he was then picked up and rushed to the hospital. He of course would end up making a full recovery, and when he appeared for more interviews, he once again stated that the beef was over. It was later uncovered that his shooter Corey was in fact a friend of Yo Gotti, confirming this feud was still very much alive. On the outside, things appeared to die down for a bit, but in the streets of Memphis, word was spreading. We now know this is around the same time that Yo Gotti's brother, Big Jook, put out a bounty on not only Dolph's head, but multiple paper route members.
These folks don't know that Jook put a hit out, bro. Don't know this.
$100,000 for Dolph, $50,000 for Key Glock, $50,000 for Pre-Woo, $20,000 for Snoop Bands, and $5,000 for Moochie Grape. A man named Hernandez Govan, who was close with Jook, took this information and started planning. Now Govan wasn't equipped to do the job himself, but he knew if he relayed the information, he could take a cut for himself. That's when he met Cornelius Smith and Justin Johnson. Cornelius used to buy drugs from Hernandez, and Justin was an aspiring rapper from the same neighborhood who was trying to get motion for his career. Govan told them about the hit and proposed a $20,000 for himself and $40,000 for each of them if they could pull it off. They waited until the week of Thanksgiving, knowing Dolph would be around for his annual turkey drive. On November 17th, they grabbed their guns and hopped into a stolen Mercedes they acquired and drove to Dolph's neighborhood. Dolph was with his brother that morning and they were in fact around. They were making a few stops on their way to Makita's Cookies, a place he was known to frequently visit. He had done ads for the cookie shop in the past, which some people pointed out may not have been the smartest play, seeing how high profile he was.
Say it again. Say you came to get some what? Makita Cookies. Get the sign. Come back around there. What you got? Chocolate chip. Don't hot. Just for you. Appreciate you, baby. Be safe.
Needless to say, they spotted Dolph's camouflage-wrapped Corvette. They followed them for a few minutes before they finally stopped and got out at Makita's. The shop had floor-to-ceiling windows so you could see directly inside. As they ordered their cookies with their backs turned, Justin and Cornelius pulled up behind them. Cornelius jumped out first with the Draco in hand and immediately opened fire with Justin and his handgun behind them. Dolph fell to the floor as he was hit over 20 times in the back, neck, and jaw. His brother emptied his clip back as they ran away, hitting Cornelius in the leg and arm, and Justin was grazed in the back. The two men then took the stolen car to an abandoned home in Orange Mound where they left it. They were then seen on CCTV entering an apartment building where they cleaned up their wounds, switched clothes, and went their separate ways.
37 minutes after the shooting, prosecutors say surveillance video shows the accused shooters going to another apartment complex, changing clothes, Johnson into a yellow hoodie, and leaves in a white Expedition.
Justin then drove a different car home where he packed his bags and was seen getting picked up by his friend Shondell Barnett, and they fled the city.
Then, hours later, more surveillance video shows him return to Crosstown Concourse in a yellow sweatshirt, go into an apartment, come back out with his bags packed. Then investigators say he went on the run, starting a manhunt.
After the death of Dolph, Makita's Cookies would ultimately not open back up, and it would turn into a memorial with people from all over the city visiting to pay homage.
Once a crime scene is now a growing tribute to the life of Young Dolph. Tonight, we caught up with the man who takes time daily to maintain the growing memorial to the rapper.
Whether it's a spray paint bottle or staple gun in hand, Jeremiah Taylor is a man on a mission each day at this memorial honoring slain Memphis rapper Young Dolph on Airways Boulevard.
He was a legend, he was a king, so his stuff deserves to be treated as such.
For Taylor, the persistence is personal. He, like Dolph, grew up in the Castalia Heights neighborhood, went to Hamilton High, and met the rapper several times.
It was very hard. It started off as me trying to get myself out of a rut. This really put me in a bad situation mentally or whatever. And so just for my mental health, it started out, all right, let me get to doing something positive.
So starting about 3 days after Dolph's death, inside Makita's Cookies, outside the store, Taylor, along with local activist Frank Gotti, make daily trips to organize, beautify, and freshen up this growing tribute.
But this would quickly become a hotspot, and even after the murder, shots would still be fired here. Even the man who was taking it upon himself to look after the memorial would also be shot and killed. Needless to say, the area was already struggling with high crime, and the death of Dolph only made things worse for everyone. With speculation of retaliation, the police even issued a warning advising people to stay in their homes.
We are encouraging everyone to stay in if they don't have to be out.
It didn't take long for the police to locate the stolen Mercedes that was used that day. The same house it was found at can be seen in the background of a now deleted music video by Straight Drop or Justin Johnson.
Images of this now infamous white Mercedes, Memphis police say, was the getaway car used in Young Dolph's murder at Makita's Cookies has been viewed by millions. The car was found outside this abandoned home on Bradley Street days after the killing in late November. It's the same home seen here in this music video featuring Young Dolph's accused killer, Justin Johnson, also known as Straight Drop.
In another music video posted shortly after the murder, he's also seen wearing a PRE pendant around his pants even though he had no affiliation. It didn't take much of an investigation for Straight Drop to become a person of interest in this case. After police got word of his potential involvement, a simple check on the cameras outside his apartment essentially solved the case.
Now, rewind back the day before Young Dolph's murder, 17 hours before. The jury is shown surveillance video from Crosstown Concourse where Johnson was living with a relative. You can see a white Ford Expedition pull into the parking garage. Then you see a man on the elevator wearing a Bass Pro hat, gray sweatpants. Prosecutors say that's Johnson. A series of videos spanning several hours, counting down to Dolph's death, is shown, showing Johnson coming and going from the building in the same outfit. At one point, he returns to Crosstown Concourse in a white Mercedes car. Prosecutors also show video of a car exchange at a gas station in the middle of the night where that Mercedes is picked up. Then, around 30 minutes before the murder, video shows Johnson leaving the apartment once again. And once again, he's in the same outfit. This time, he's on the phone with his young daughter. You see him leave in the white Mercedes.
Cornelius Smith would be the first arrest, and initially he kept quiet and denied the allegations against him. But as the evidence that directly pointed to them as the shooters began to pile up, it became clear there was no getting out of this. Despite getting $50,000 for a lawyer from Yo Gotti's CMG, he would eventually start cooperating and tell all, revealing that he was only paid $800 of the $40,000 he was promised. Justin was eventually pulled over and arrested in Indiana alongside his driver Shondell Barnett.
U.S. Marshals found Johnson in Indiana. That's Justin Johnson. Tomorrow, local law enforcement agencies and the DA will hold a press conference with more information on where in Indiana Johnson was found. Yesterday, Johnson was supposed to turn himself in at at 201 Poplar, but ABC 24 was there and he never showed up.
Last week, Justin was sentenced to life in prison and found guilty on all 3 counts after a quick 4-day trial. First-degree murder, conspiracy to commit murder, and a felon in possession of a firearm.
We, the jury, find the defendant guilty of conspiracy to commit first-degree murder as charged in count 1 of the indictment. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty of first-degree murder as charged in count 2 of the indictment. And we, the jury, find the defendant guilty of convicted felon in possession of a firearm as charged in count 3 of the indictment.
Shondale posted bond and has been on the run since 2022, where police are still actively looking for him.
Shondale Barnett is a person who we believe was providing assistance to Justin since we've been looking for him. And he now faces charges of accessory after the fact to first-degree murder.
Sheriff Hardin says he has no idea where Shondale Barnett went after being released. Shelby County doesn't know either and has issued a warrant for Barnett's arrest, adding on attempted first degree and theft of property between $10,000 and $60,000.
Jamarcus Johnson, who's Justin's half-brother, would also be arrested for accessory after the fact, where he took a plea deal and admitted to helping Justin evade police by taking his cell phone and posting on social media for him, in an attempt to give him an alibi and throw off police.
Jamarcus Johnson had no involvement in the homicide before the murder. A week or so afterwards, he took acts that helped his brother evade law enforcement.
Hagerman says Justin gave Jamarcus a car and cell phone, the same cell phone that Justin allegedly had with him before and during the murder.
Lastly, Hernandez Govan, who's being charged as the mastermind and the one who coordinated and brought everyone together, is still awaiting his verdict.
43-year-old Hernandez Govan, who was just indicted in the rap star slaying, along with Johnson and Cornelius Smith, once lived just a few houses down. Neighbors fearing for their lives told us off camera he grew up on the street. A possible connection linking the suspects, as District Attorney Steve Mulroy says Govan asked for Young Dolph to be murdered.
Mr. Govan has been indicted and is in custody for being involved in the Young Dolph murder. He played the role of the person who solicited the murder.
But not before he too would suffer a tragic loss. Govan's daughter, who's also a rapper and went by the name Lotta Cash Desto, would also be murdered in Houston in September of 2022.
Govan's daughter, 25-year-old Destiny Govan, an up-and-coming rapper by the name of Lotta Cash Desto, was fatally shot in Houston.
He would post on social media stating, "I think I cursed you with my lifestyle. I apologize, baby." While justice was being brought to Dolph's murder in the courtroom, back in the streets of Memphis, things were still heating up. And Big, who had put the hit out in the first place, was now a walking target. As I mentioned, Big Jook was the older brother of Yo Gotti and part owner of CMG, the label. The beef between Jook and Dolph goes way back. In Dolph's diss song from 2017, Play With Yo Bitch, is mentioned in the first verse where he calls him his big sister. This may have been the moment where the beef between Dolph and Gotti then extended to his brother as well. But there are rumors that their beef goes back much further and has to do with other street politics. After his passing, he was seen making numerous disses toward Dolph.
I don't paint no beside two real niggas. Two real niggas with a in the middle, man. Y'all don't do that, man. Don't fuck with our legacy. Hey, y'all. I'm finna start a GoFundMe, man, cause I know a lot of you rap niggas fucked up out here, man. Can't do no shows. Ain't save no money. So guess what? I'm gonna come say today.
That was until January 13, 2024, when Jook and Gotti were attending a funeral service for their uncle. After the service at Paragon's restaurant and event center, 2 men would be reported shot, with 1 man succumbing to his wounds in the hospital. The deceased man was then identified as Big Jook himself.
Deadly shooting in Hickory Hill with connections to Memphis rapper Yo Gotti. Fox 13's Lakia Scott joins us live tonight from St. Francis Hospital. That's where the victims were taken. Lakia, what were you able to find out?
Good evening, Daniel. Well, at least 5 police sources have confirmed with Fox 13 that the person killed is Anthony Mims, also known as Big Jook. Now, Big Jook is the brother of rapper Yo Gotti.
We do feel like the individual that was shot was possibly targeted by the suspect.
Footage from the scene would circulate online and people would react, stating paper route must still be sliding for Dolph.
I sure see him on the land, laying down over there. Huh? Big Jook dead. Yeah, for real? Big Jook. Whoa.
One person from the funeral posted on Reddit stating 3 men in all black entered the funeral, then seemingly left after spotting Gotti and Jook and waited outside in a white SUV with no plates. And just like when Dolph died, PRE members were now online mocking the death of Big Jook.
Yeah, today feel good in the motherfucker. Feel so good outside. Hell yeah, up to man, it's nicer today. Whew. God damn. Man. Woo! Boy, today a lovely day, ain't it?
It goes without saying that the death of Young Dolph only added fuel to an already burning fire in the city of Memphis. What started out as a disagreement over signing a deal turned into a rap beef and then escalated to the death of multiple people in a situation where there are no winners.